Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Wales of Wall Street. We have an LCX exchange video here for you today. LCX being the token, of course, of the exchange as well. Don't forget to check out the other videos on our channel, and don't forget to also smash that subscribe button if you have not done so already. Welcome if you are new as well, and welcome back to those that have been with us for some time. Let's go straight into this one. The reason I wanted to bring this particular topic of LCX into the forefront of our minds is kind of a bit of an experience of mine a few years back when I was coming into the crypto space itself and utilizing exchanges for the first time, and particularly the tokens of the exchanges, and why this has kind of like a good reflection point on right now. And also we'll just have a very quick overview of some of the other topics, like the opportunity for diamonds, guys. Diamonds through the Tiermans or Tiermans platform that LCX have on their exchange as well, and why that's important, because we have covered that slightly topic wise with the hbar one more recently, but I wanted to pinpoint this as part of this whole conversation because it kind of links very nicely together as we talk about adoption, mass audience coming in potentially for the next bull cycle, way more than we've seen ever before. So let's start off with this quickly. So obviously I'm not a very long term holder or crypto investor. I came in around the sort of 2019 mark and certainly saw the fruition of 2020 opportunities, and it was around this time that I was really getting into learning more about exchanges, how to use them properly, and more importantly at that time, or certainly for now as well, learning about the actual tokens of the exchanges. What I mean by this is, if you know or don't know, Binance, for example, has the BNB token, KuCoin has KCS, and in this instance, obviously LCX that we're talking about now, well, the token's LCX. It's a nice easy one, that one. But certainly as a majority of my time was spent on Binance, particularly at that time, and the utilization of the BNB token, like it is with most of the exchanges, a lot of reward programs, earning opportunities, but also the opportunity to have reduction in trading fees. So if you are a regular trader or certainly utilize the exchanges for really high ticket accumulation activities, these become relatively lucrative, to be honest, in terms of their usage, their utility, and the requirement, the demand for them as well. So what I wanted to pinpoint here was that I feel like we're in a very similar situation to around that sort of between 2018 2019 period. A bit of a winter market going on right now, as everyone knows. Yes, we've had some ups and downs in good traction areas over the last 6 months, but we're still at these very low regions, right? And I still personally don't anticipate a full bull cycle, a proper one, until maybe the latter stages of 2024, maybe into 2025 as we approach those system turn-ons of the RTGS around the world, the CBDC's integration, etc., etc. So there's this kind of area of opportunity, in my opinion, to focus not just on general tokens and projects and technologies, but also exchanges themselves, but also the tokens that they operate with as well. So we can see here on this chart, this is from Statista at the moment. This only takes us up to November 2022. You could imagine that this line is relatively similar. I doubt there's much of a drop off, to be honest, because at the end of the day, unless you closed your account down, which not a lot of people do, they tend to just delete the app and stuff and not worry about it anymore. These kind of argued, it could be slightly skewed, to be fair, but we could argue that this is relatively accurate, and certainly maybe taking consideration that we haven't got the last 8-9 months of data. So in terms of millions, there's a lot of people getting more and more involved in the crypto space and becoming a holder of in this instance Bitcoin. So this is taken from the Block Explorer, and we can imagine that in general the utilization of holders across a multitude of tokens, a multitude of crypto assets in general, is even more significantly higher than this number. But I just wanted to have a brief representation of this, because obviously Bitcoin, one of the huge stores of value and certainly one of the massive trading pairs that all exchanges use. That's why I kind of used this one as an example really of a relative trend line that we can see here. So this in mind, we can start envisioning that as these years go by, certainly the next 2 years in particular, we'll still have a gradual increase of crypto users, but we were going to have also a big, massive draw-in when things become more regulated, more legislative, and awareness builds, right? We saw very small stints of it in 2021 where, particularly here in the UK, the London Underground was covered with crypto adverts, this, that and the other. Money was flying around with marketing all over the place, crypto.com going mental. And then obviously it just dispersed and we don't really hear much about it anymore, right? But obviously more recently, which we covered in the quant video a day or two ago, the UK government moves forward on financial markets bill for potential regulation of crypto. This has actually been in towards the approval stage at House of Lords and going into the final stages of passage before it becomes genuine law, that we would, or as a society, as a government, recognize cryptocurrency and stable coins arguably as well as legitimate opportunities of investment and currency to be utilized in society. So this is massive, guys, because I remember when I first started, I was a bit skeptical about certain things. I heard a bit about Bitcoin about 10 years ago, 11 years, 12, 13 years ago, when I was at uni, and I got an email saying, oh, this is the future of finance. And I was like, oh, great, another scam email, delete. And there was EOS, I think. EOS was another token as well at the time. And I wish I could go back sometimes and just be like, hey, don't ignore this, please, Simon. But here we are today. We learned the lesson. Not going to do that again. But the point I'm making, that example of lesson learned for me way back then is also another lesson I learned in the arguably the most previous or most recent adoption period between 2020 2021. The NFT cycle, the metaverse cycle obviously all kicked in as well. And that's what I mean, because when you have the narratives and the stories kicking in at these moments in time, back then, guys, we didn't have the full regulation and certainly the big stepping stones that we've got in place right now and certainly coming into fruition. If you can imagine the people that were perhaps skeptical or on the edge, or I'm not sure if this is safe or not, whatever the narrative is in people's minds, I feel like a lot of that would be dispersed a lot in the coming years. So we look to exchanges at the moment, by the way, a lot of banks are discussing in this moment in time. When I was at the Digital Pound Foundation event, there was a lot of representatives from different banks. They were talking about trying to see how they can create their own exchanges, or indeed allow the storage of crypto within your own existing personal banks, for whatever level that might be. Obviously speculation at the moment, I'm sure they're working on it, but for now we've got access to situations, exchanges like LCX. We talked about Binance, KuCoin, all the others in the earlier points of this video. So there's a great opportunity for these exchanges to really expand, but also their token utilization as well. And in particular with LCX being a regulated exchange already and compliant with MiCA or MiCA, the European standardization as well, it's in great stead. A lot of exchanges don't have anything like this, right? Or at least have troubles with certain countries because they haven't adhered to certain regulation with advertising or promotion, or the way that people are allowed to use the futures, the ledgers, etc. So it's got a great advantage. It's still relatively new in terms of its LCX branding. I think it's about a few years now, but it's at a really strong stage, guys, and it's starting to integrate some really interesting areas of interest. We even on the screen right now, you can see the Tymans or Tiermans, I can't remember exactly how it's pronounced, but the opportunity for people to really start integrating investment in areas they probably never had access to before, didn't have a clue how to do it. As I said, we covered the Hedera video more recently about Diamond's application for the use of physical NFTs, tokenization, fractionalization of assets, and the access so easily now through the exchanges to either part own certain assets like this, or go full whack into them as well. And the utilization of tokens that can be built into this too, as kind of, I would guess, an extension, if you like, of LCX. You've got the TIA token here as an example. Now, to get TIA, you can use the Europe's EUR stablecoin format at the moment, or the fiat ramping, or you can use LCX to buy these TIA tokens. So that's one example, but in general, as I've said, with the exchanges as a whole, you can indeed start buying a multitude of assets using the LCX pairing. That is the point I'm making, that all these exchanges give those opportunities arisen for being able to be used in that way. And as I said, the advantages, there's variations of these, but one in particular is, in most cases, a reduction in trading fees. And depending on how much you are trading, can be quite significant savings. I mean, how many of us, I complain all the time, even when I'm using my ledger directly to buy things, which isn't too bad. MoonPay is not bad, but a lot of these exchanges can charge like $5 to $10 depending on what you're buying and what time you're buying, network demand, etc. So these will come down in time, of course, but actually having the utilization aspect of the token itself really does help. So there's kind of like a rough idea of what I was trying to get at with this topic overall, that mass adoption will continue and certainly massively increase in the correct times over the next couple of years, in my opinion. But you've also got the opportunity that I missed out on, arguably. I did have quite a bit of BNB back in 2020, but I wish I had thought about it more. And also the old saying of, I wish I was in earlier. I feel like we're in a great, strong position right now. Not saying that right now, I'm not a financial advisor, but certainly from these points and the months to come, maybe even a year, who knows, before the cycle really does turn around, for us to start accumulating the top quality exchange tokens, because they will be in high demand as things get better and increase in confidence and trust, etc., as time goes by as well. So think about that, guys. I think it's a really important point. And LCX I've picked out because it is a really good upcoming exchange. It's regulated, as I mentioned, under certain jurisdictions of Europe in general. I have great access to LCX myself. I've used it quite a bit now, albeit that I transfer my tokens eventually to the ledger that I have. But the point still remains. We must remember that all these tokens that we have in terms of market caps and the utilization and the value of them is really important. KCS is a prime example here. I was buying a lot of this even at like $1, maybe even less than that, in just around before the big bull cycle, the last one kicked up. And this went all the way up to something silly like $20, I think, in the history of this. And KuCoin is one of my favorite exchanges to use. I don't really have, I'm going to say it's like my favorite, like I'm going to lose any sleep on it if it disappears overnight. But you can see here, just as an example, this is where the kind of areas I was buying it, 70 cents to $1. It went all the way up to $21 and $27, sorry, which is a phenomenal return. But I was also utilizing it for the first times as a trade-off, if you like, of the fees. But you can imagine, as I've mentioned, especially in multiple markets around the world, how much this could be used. BNB was a massive opportunity. I was buying a lot of that around the $25 mark. We always made a joke at work about this, like every Monday there was always a bit of a crash or red Monday, blood red Monday throughout that kind of period of time. And it was literally just like, how much BNB can we accumulate? And it was shooting up, guys. It went absolutely ballistic in a similar period of time as well. Looking at big numbers here of nearly $680 as a top line. And even on its retraction and upward trend again, nearly hit those numbers in a double whammy in that year. This is the point I'm making. These are more established exchanges, obviously, but if you're always looking for opportunities of upcoming exchanges or things that will be really beneficial in the future, that's why I picked out LCX. It's not the only one. There's loads of others, and I'm sure you can have many of your ideas in the comments as well. But LCX is in a really strong point for the multitude of reasons that we mentioned, along with a load of others as well. So do keep an eye on it. But my final point before we go into the chart was about the diamonds or the diamonds opportunity. As I said, go and check out the Hedera video as well for the full detail about the diamond market. But just to have a quick recap, the monetary value of market value, of diamonds globally is going to increase significantly over the next sort of 5 to 10 years. But even these numbers, in my opinion, don't consider the application of physical NFT opportunity. We know that people use it for jewelry, but it's also significantly used for other areas of interest and industries. Abrasive. I couldn't believe how big the abrasive market was. This is where people have diamond cut things, whether it's alloys or metals, whatever it might be, utilizing the really pinpoint edges of diamonds or certainly the strength of them. But what was really crazy is that 1%, only 1% of the actual supply at the moment of diamonds out there in the world, whether you're holding them or not, is only 1% is used in terms of an investment opportunity, which I thought was staggering, considering this is a multi-trillion-dollar market, right? In terms of its abilities and opportunities. But these numbers in terms of its actual market size valuation will increase generically and organically, but this is not considering the ability for anyone and everyone now having the opportunity to buy, whether it's, as I said, fractionalized areas of diamonds through exchanges or whole ones. And if you consider the market value versus gold and silver, which has obviously been around a long time, gold and silver is arguably be more accessible, albeit not. Still, I would say a big percentage of the world wouldn't have a clue how to do it. I don't hold gold or silver at all, but diamonds for me was very interesting because it is already there. We know its value is massive. We know it's going to increase more. But I wouldn't have a clue where to buy diamonds unless it was on a ring or a piece of jewellery at your local jewellers. I'm talking about proper cut diamonds here, guys, as if you're buying, gold bullions. So this is a really, really massive opportunity. It's something that LCX is really focused on a long, long time. I skimmed over this. I'm going to totally admit this. I skimmed over this opportunity a while back, not understanding the full market potential. It wasn't until I saw the Hedera information a month or whatever ago that I was like, oh, this is making more sense now. I just thought this was another one of those nonsense things, NFT things that was coming out and not really have much application. But when you look at tokenization in general or physical NFT application, whether it's housing, the energy sector, cars, whatever, I never really thought about diamonds. And this is absolutely huge opportunity. So it's really, again, another opportunity to think about when you're looking at not just the exchanges, but their opportunities. But utilizing LCX, as I said, to get that TIA token, it's a perfect opportunity. You imagine how many people have the money out there to go and buy full price diamonds at whatever the price is. I don't know, 12,000 a pop. I'm not exactly sure the exact amount. It's around those figures, right? But to offset a lot of that using these kind of token applications, guys, you don't even have to use it yourselves. You're just holding the LCX because the demand will be there and increase the price in a deflationary aspirational factor of use. It's an incredible opportunity. So let us know what you think about all that. I thought I'd just tie those topics in because it really does interlace a bit of a story of my past in the crypto space, a bit of learning that hopefully you guys will understand a bit more, and also perhaps heed the information that I am producing here for this kind of opportunity. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not saying to do or not do it. Definitely do your own research, obviously, but the opportunity is there. It's just my duty to try and build the knowledge, whatever expertise I do have. I'm not claiming that I'm like anyone else that's been around for 10, 15 years in this space, but you know where it's going with this. But it's a prime opportunity, guys, to quickly chat about the price point of LCX when we're conveniently talking about the opportunity of value with an exchange token. Now, in the past, this data isn't huge, but obviously from the launch point, you're going to understand to get this traction downwards. But even in its upwards trends, there's been great opportunity from these lower regions of 2 cents we saw in the past all the way up to sort of 17, 18 cents in more recent times. But at the moment, we're floating around this 5.5 cent mark. It's had a bit of an upward trend today. Everyone's obviously been paid. That's kind of the traditional method every month for what happens. But of course, there's a lot of excitement around the Bitcoin ETFs, the interest rates, everything like that. People are just moving their money out of banks as much as they can into these exchanges and systems in one way or another. So that's understandable, but taking that out of the equation, we could argue we're floating around this fib level, both on the long-term fib retracement level, and one of the macro ones too, around this $4 mark. So it's a great area of DCAing opportunity. I wouldn't rule out either to see potentially that's kind of like 2.5 cent mark potentially coming again one time in the near future, because we do need to retest these areas to gain the correct support needed to really push us on and get us geared up for those bull cycles whenever they may be. So as I said, right now, as a manual opportunity for me personally, I'm always trying to see these stabilized areas, of which one is around this current sort of relative area, to take advantage of accumulation. But do bear in mind, there's not a huge support area, which is why you always see this dipping up and down in an almost volatile way, really, in a short period of time. It just hasn't got the strength to push it out, unless LCX would come out with some really significant news, or all of a sudden 90% of the world's population wake up again for the crypto space bull runs. So that's kind of where it will come to, really. But I do anticipate a potential drop down back to this like lower 4 cent area, and potentially slightly lower than that. But that at least reflects back on some of the resistance that we had back here in September 2022, which matches where we've just drawn these circles, but also some really interesting points around this area as well, where we've seen some traction or magnetism around this area in the past too, certainly towards the last stage of last year. So that's kind of like the defining reasoning behind this. I've still got buy orders, by the way, down at these regions. As I said, lower 4 cent area and just under 3.7 cents. I haven't put any limit orders just down here back at the 3 cent level just yet. I'm just seeing how we anticipate certainly the next few weeks. So the RSI is slightly on that middle ground for me personally. 14 days showing 55. It's not quite that manual opportunity for me today, but it certainly was over the last couple of days to accumulate more LCX, and the same kind of rough principle on the 28 days. It's not too bad. If you're a long-term trader or someone that trades on a monthly basis, that's still possibly a good buy point. Someone who's a short-term trader, just be aware obviously of those higher regions in the 14 days at least, and certainly on the day trading charts you can see, or certainly the hour charts, or you can obviously see there's a good opportunity throughout those periods of time as well. But for me as a long-term holder, I'm just looking at the best opportunities in a DCA format. That's my strategy, that's my area of interest and arguably partial expertise, because I've done it for a long time and successfully so far. But guys, you obviously have your own strategies and thoughts around this. Let us know what you're doing with LCX. So you've been accumulating like I have. Are you waiting for lower regions? Are you excited as I am about the future of LCX? Do drop those comments in. Final regarding point, performance indicators on the right hand side here. I'm not going to focus too much on the week, as I just mentioned. There's a lot of activity in the market that's pushing everything up anyway. However, on the monthly, it's very strong. The 3 months hasn't been great, but not many markets have been. But do identify this big box that we drew back in the last LCX video. We're at that lower point right now in terms of its current price point. So do keep that in mind, that we may not support that very well and we might see these lower regions. However, the year to date is fantastically strong still on LCX, but that might filter out over the next couple of months if we don't see any further traction upwards, either on LCX or any of the other asset classes that are out there. But as I said, I'm a long-term holder. I'm a long-term believer of LCX. Whether it's kind of like 5 cents, 10 cents, 2 cents, it's great to have more accumulation at lower costs, obviously. But I think in the long run, these numbers will look very silly compared to where it will be in the future. And I do anticipate, guys, in that kind of like next bull run, if you like, of it at least getting towards that 50 cent mark upwards. We'll have to see how that pans out. But along that way, when we come to it or nearer that point, I will do more analysis videos on that. But you can even see here data points. We're going to see a lot of friction at that 17 cent mark again, certainly around the 20 cent mark before we can even start fully talking about these big numbers. But it's certainly in my head in the bull cycle run, based on data, based on everything we've spoken about in this video and loads of other stuff that they're doing. That is more than achievable in my head. Other than that, guys, I'm going to wrap this video up. Hopefully you found it interesting. We will cover loads more videos tonight, get them out over the next couple of days, trying to catch up. But thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next LCX video. Take care and bye-bye.